inquiry screen, smart list, navigation list, those are really your searching, storing, right? If I'm going to search for transactions, most people are going to go to a smart list and try and find it, or you can go an inquiry screen and try and find it that way, but it's not easy, right? So you're really using smart list and navigation list most of the time to go find something that you're looking for. Again, Acumatica, you don't necessarily do that because you've got all these different capabilities. When it comes to searching, you've got inquiries, which is the primary on top of the global search. You do have reports, so you can run reports and find things that way. Some of the unique things about the reports are that they are, so if I were to go to given a report here, and I go to run it, these reports are searchable and exportable. So purchase order summary report. Helpful if I back up my date here. So again, this is a report that's designed in Acumatica's report designer. Then you create any new reports you want. So it's got printing, it's got searching capabilities in here. It's also got dynamic hyperlinks back to transactions. You've got export to Excel of the report, which it's interesting because the export of these reports to Excel, Acumatic's report designer has its own definition of how it exports to Excel differently than when it renders on the printed screen. So you can actually control how it exports to Excel separate from the way it renders on the screen to make it more usable when you get to Excel. And the PDF option also built in. You don't have to add a PDF printer or Adobe Acrobat like you do with GP to be able to get that into a PDF form. It's built in. Again, smart list, we can move columns, we can do search options, but you only have a limit to 4, right? Without adding some other products, Smart View, Advanced Smart List, any of those things added to GP would enhance its searching capabilities. Gives you, Advanced Smart List gives you unlimited searching and more dynamic functionality around grouping within the data and some totaling. And so it's an add-on product where again, Acumatica's, these lists are built right in. So searching, quick searches. GP's got user-defined fields, but they are limited, right, based on the different record types. Acumatica doesn't really have a limitation. Acumatica uses what they call attributes. So when I'm talking about attributes, basically you go into your attributes screen and you basically create whatever different data type you want. So it could be just type text field, it could be a combo box with a drop-down. This is a multi-select drop-down, if you will. Checkbox, date, time, and selector is a little bit unique, but basically it's very similar to some of the other things that we do with other products with GP, where you're actually able to do lookups on other data points within the system. So I can look up a customer, right? Or I can look up a vendor list and have that be tied to an attribute. So again, you could potentially use this many different ways. The point is, once you create these attributes, then you're either creating user-defined fields. So on certain transaction types, right, whatever those attributes are, and bills and adjustments. And again, this is an example of a generic inquiry where it's got some logic behind it on the attachment, on the styling, so that way it shows anything that's on hold in yellow. Again, simple to do. It's just a simple if statement to say, okay, if it's on hold, then show it in yellow. Again, that's all through the, so here, if I go to manage user-defined fields, basically, as long as I have security access to do this, I can either, and I'm basically looking up an attribute now that's been set up previously, and I'm basically just adding it to whatever screens I want. So again, we're configuring it. We're not really customizing it. Again, now I've got a new field here that I can store data in that wasn't there before. So you can build out all these attributes, which is user-defined fields. When it comes to master records, like the vendors and things like that, you have a little more flexibility with attributes and user-defined fields, where you basically have a list of attributes that would be controlled here. And so you could have, and this would be determined, so you could have required attributes or not required attributes. So if they're set to required and you put in a new vendor, then it's going to force that user to have to enter that information, whatever type of information you need to capture. again, so more flexible. GP's got limited user fields without add-on products for GP, where Acumatica's got that built in. Some of the reasons we really do like the product is just it gives us the flexibility without having to add a bunch of ISV solutions to Acumatica like we might have to do with GP to get to the same point in time, same functionality. File attachments. GP has some limited file attachment capabilities, right? So, if we go into GP and we go to a transaction, right, I can go to my transaction entry, right, and I can do file attach on here. So depending on how you're set up with your file attachments, there's different attaching depending on whether or not you're using the two different solutions with file attachments with GP. The older one, which was just a notes kind of attachment, the OLE objects, if you will, and then the newer method, which actually stores multiple. In Acumatica's case, files anywhere throughout the system, you'll see the word files. And then it's as simple as just a drag and drop, right, of any of these files. So if I'm just going, and whatever file types are supported, it's going to limit you. You tell it what. Basically, I just dragged up the PowerPoint presentation for today's lunch and learn. And so if I click on this now, it is a file attachment. And so here, if I were to go edit this, and again, I can edit it. That the point of being editing it is you can actually put some comments in here. So, and this would be what would also be searched when you're searching. So if you get you have versioning within here, you have file synchronization capabilities if you've got FTP sites, where it could automatically synchronize data. Again, when you're talking about working with file attachments, this really gets you full capabilities. Again, you see it's got upload using the mobile app. So if I was out in the field and I need to upload a copy or a picture or something like that, it's all supported within the application, right? If I need to download this, I can grab it and just click it, and it's going to re-download that. So if somebody else were to want to look at it, again, if it's a PDF or whatever, again, whatever types of file attachments, you define what file types you want to let your users store in the system. So it could be images, it could be whatever you need, right? They're going to store here. In addition to, we've got file attachments on every line. So if there was a particular, receipt, right, for this particular line, it could be here. And then we have notes / comments. So these are line notes. Again, we're not limited in the number of characters. Like GP's line comments is 500 characters. I think this is, I don't know. I don't even want to guess. I think it's 16,000 or some big number like that, right? And we've got our document notes up here. So similarities and differences. Again, if we put something in here, right, it's going to show us just like GP does, right? When we put a note on a record, master record especially, you're going to see those notes. When it comes to master records, one of the things that, again, without an add-on product, GP can't do this, but pop-up notes. We have clients that are using SalesPad, and they're very common to use pop-up notes. Right? So anytime I do any type of transaction or were to, for this vendor, I'm now going to see that pop-up note versus these regular internal notes up here. So again, you have that for items, vendors, customers, that ability to basically get that in front of whoever's doing a transaction, is to alert them on that. Screen configuration, that's functionality that's on the roadmap. So it can be demoed with 24R1, which is the latest release. It came out a few months ago. But basically what that means is when you get to that new screen configuration capabilities that's coming, I could actually go into the screen here, and I can actually go into configuration, and I'm able to actually configure the screen, move fields around, take fields off without any customization whatsoever. Literally just going into screen configuration, and I can relay out the screen. Again, for people that are using SalesPad, we have that capability with SalesPad, and again, Acumatica is adding similar functionality to it as well. Again, those are not things without customizations in GP. We're not able to move fields around, change the screens significantly in any way, right? So again, they're building it so that way their objective is low code, no code in most cases. Sharing of info. So big one is Acumatica's emailing capabilities fully built in. the lists / GIs. They can also be exposed to OData, any GI, right, or list. I'm just going to save that. So when I'm on a list and maybe I want to have that exposed to OData. So again, this is a generic inquiry called bills and adjustments, which you name it, whatever you want. So as long as I have security access, I can get into edit the generic inquiry, which is basically that list. Again, it's like having every GP lookup be based on a smart list with more functionality than what smart lists can do today, right? So if I expose it to OData, if I were to export this list to Excel right now, I've got a fully refreshable Excel file, right? Based on pulling that data right out of Acumatica real time. You also see the option to expose it to the mobile application. So if you most commonly with dashboards and widgets, right, you want to expose that information out to the mobile app. It definitely becomes, so now you have it real time on your mobile device, phone, tablet, whatever the case might be, to be able to see that information and use it there. Again, another concept that Acumatica is a little bit different with, once you get beyond 10 users in their licensing, is that it really is unlimited users, right? They try and scale the licensing based on basically how much horsepower you need to drive your system, right? How many users are on the system, but my users are very limited on what they do on the system, then I could have 100 users in there. If they're not creating a lot of transactions, I'm not doing a lot of things. Again, I always say it's like electricity, right? I have 10 people living in the house. It doesn't matter if I've got 10 people or one person, it's how much electricity I use. Well, that's a similar concept with Acumatica's licensing with their unlimited users, is really based on how much horsepower do you need to drive the system versus, hey, I need somebody to have access to this information, and therefore I've got to go buy a full seat of GP. So some differences there. Again, these primary lists are the main lists like you would do for your lookups and such, right? So instead of having to do the magnifying glass in GP, right, to go look up a transaction, right, basically I start with a list and it gets me to the transaction more quickly. Well, in Acumatica's case, again, these are fully functional generic inquiries. Some other features that are cool features within the generic inquiries. So if I'm looking for just open records, there's a Shift F function, which automatically filters that column. I could also do a search filtering within the column. So if I just say this month, right, nothing in this month, right, but you have full capabilities to do searching on every column as well, right? So with equals, contains, so you can search across any column. Again, you can add any column to this, right? So here's a perfect example of, okay, do I want to see totals on any of these? If I did, all I got to do is go into the generic inquiry, over to my results grid, and say put a total at the bottom of it. Right, so if I go down here to my amounts, see, I want to sum that. Now I'm adding a total to the bottom of that column. It could be record counts, whatever you need. But again, just making it much more usable, much more user friendly. Now I've got a total, right, of the balance that's open. So again, making the system more usable. We talked about user-defined fields / attributes, right? So here's an example of a new attribute that was set up, and then this is a multi-select, right? So I could check 1 and 3 in this case. Could be, customers and what industries are they in, and you could have a drop-down list that you're able to then select. And again, you can make that required as an attribute, then the user would have to at least select one value. It couldn't be blank. Again, all these grids in Acumatica, just like a smart list, are exportable to Excel. In this case, I've got over 1,000 records, so it's going to warn me. I'm going to limit it to 1,000. Again, it's going to immediately export to Excel. Other features that are in goes down over the screens. So that's just exporting to Excel. There it goes. Now here. So again, everything exportable to Excel real time, really quickly. Again, if it's also refreshable, so whatever that information is, Here it is. Export to Excel. It tells you, you know, where it came from, when it was done. All of that's available. Also pivot tables. So I don't have to go to Excel. I'm inside of Acumatica. I can just go over here, save as a pivot. As you can see, it has all the modules and then some. When it comes to, so if I were to grab the vendor and maybe the balance. Right, super simple example. I've got a full list. Obviously, if it's filtered, I could just show the ones that are just have balances. Again, lots of functionality within the product, which is really what we like about it. And talk about exposing.